Goodness me, what a shot!
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone, welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. The build-up to Cologne and the EHF Final 4 continues. I'm on the eve of making my merry way to Cologne. Probably by the time you're hearing this, at some point on Friday, I'll already be there. It'll be the eve of the Final 4. But Alex, who is not there this time, but he is on site for another big sporting event. He's in Boston where the World Cup is, the football World Cup, and you've got some big names on your doorstep, Alex, huh?
Yeah, I'm on the ground here in Boston, which is hosting some really nice groups. Actually, my partner was on a flight from London to Boston yesterday evening, and it was rammed to the gills with really drunk Scottish fans who are now popping up around the city and are going to take over. But besides Scotland, we've got some fairly big matches in Foxborough here outside Boston, including the French team who have their home base for the whole tournament in just outside Boston, but they're staying in the Four Seasons right beside my office. So I walk by that hotel every day. So I'll see if Mbappe has any opinions on the Champions League Final Four in Cologne, and if he really thinks that Matthias Gidsel is going to get his first Champions League.
Just have that. I have the phone ready to record just in case. You know, we know Mbappe is a football fan. He's been at some big France games and PSG games over the years. His mother's was a handball player, right? Is that the connection?
Oh, is it?
I think so. Yeah, I think his mother was a handball player. But anyway, enough on them. The World Cup starting today, but thankfully you all just did a quick look. There's no games clashing, or no major games clashing between the Football World Cup and the Final Four this weekend in Cologne.
Oh, so if you really wanted, you could be set up for a blockbuster Saturday, starting at, was it 3 p.m.?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock Central European time. You go into the first semi-final of the EHF Champions League, which is Magdeburg Füchse Berlin, a repeat of last year's final. Then 3 hours later, you've got Aalborg versus Barcelona, a repeat of the 23-24 EHF Champions League final. And from that, if you're inspired and want to keep watching sport, you've got 3 hours later at 9 p.m, Qatar versus Switzerland.
Oh.
And then if you're still really feeling yourself at 12 p.m, 12 a.m. Central European time, we got Brazil, Morocco. And if you want to keep that party going, 3 a.m, Haiti versus Scotland. And that is your blockbuster Saturday of sport. All set, but it doesn't clash with the World Cup. Of course, all the football World Cup games happening quite late in Europe. But it sets up a wonderful day for me. I could watch sport from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
We started a build-up already for people on Patreon. We've released the interview with Juri Knorr, which we'll put later in this podcast as well for everyone to enjoy as he looks forward to his first EHF Final Four. A German who is not going to be featuring in the first semi-final. The only German who's not going to be featuring in the first semi-final who's there, and that's maybe where we'll start in a moment. But, you know, we started building up, Alex, a couple of days ago in our previous podcast about this weekend and considering a little bit about the semi-final lineups. I remember when we making our predictions for what, or hopes for what the semi-finals would be, but when you were saying it there, the 2025 final up first, then 2024 final after that, the all-German clash on one side, the Spaniards, the Catalonians and the Danes on the other side. It feels like a very good semi-final lineup on Saturday.
It does. I think that was our reaction at the start as well, that it feels right, because we've seen it's really been Magdeburg and Barcelona that have been trading Champions Leagues for the last 5 years, including, so they're the only two omnipresent teams over the last 3 years, Magdeburg and Barcelona. They faced each other in semi-finals and finals. We've seen them come up against each other. We know they have a very close game in them, and they're probably the favourites going into the semi-finals on both sides. But you have quite exciting teams in Füchse Berlin and Aalborg who are full of dynamism and you really feel like they can easily upset both teams. And I think the right matchups that are there, I think Füchse Berlin and Magdeburg have a bit of a score to settle over the last couple of years. It's really turning into a big rivalry in Germany, and they're kind of stepping ahead of the other teams in Germany and solidifying their space at the very top. And, I think Füchse Berlin and Matthias Giesel will be raring to go as kind of the only trophy that Matthias Giesel hasn't won in his career. So it feels right. And then Barca Aalborg, a repeat of two finals. So this is the 2020 and 21 final and the 24 final, where Barcelona have beat Aalborg. In the first one, it was a demolition. In the next one, Aalborg nearly had it. So, hey,
we remember Miguel Hansen clipping the crossbar right at the death there in his basically the final throw of his career in the club jersey. Beautifully set up. Maybe we'll start with the old German affair then, the first one on Saturday between Magdeburg and Berlin. As I said, they've really been going at it toe-to-toe over the last few years. It was a surprisingly kind of comfortable win for Magdeburg in the final last year, as far as comfortable finals can go. By no means a hammering, but it was like one of those weird occasions where everything feels like it's Berlin's to go and win. They're the explosive team, the exciting team, but then you see it all unfold in front of you, and you realize 20,000 people realize all at the same time. It's like, oh, Magdeburg really know how to win this game and really grind it out, and they played their own game. They won the battle of the styles to win, and since then they have had the upper hand. They won most recently in March by 2 goals. Going back to September, they hammered Berlin in the game that was really shrouded by the departure of Jaron Sievert and Nikolai Krikow coming in for his first game. So that was kind of the headline news, and a bit of a shocking performance, but that maybe explains why they lost so comfortably to Magdeburg there. But they are the inform side between these two teams. It's been a while since Berlin have gotten a win over them, but do you think that really has an impact when it comes to the semi-final on Saturday?
I think Magdeburg are very confident right now, but at the same time, Füchse Berlin are streaking. So it's a like, will Füchse Berlin have in their heads that they haven't beaten Magdeburg for 3 games in a row, 3 pretty huge games in a row, and have been completely shut down this season? I think they might. I think there is more pressure on Füchse Berlin and Nikolai Krikow to figure something out, figure out a plan to shut down Magdeburg than it is on Magdeburg to do anything different. Apart from, just make sure Giesel doesn't score 18 goals. So I think in that sense, Magdeburg are going to be comfortable with the plan that they've executed multiple times, and I don't think we'll be overthinking too much. While Füchse Berlin, I believe, and Nikolai Krikow will be scheming to do something. They need to have something in their back pocket to change things up. And ultimately this Victor Berlin team this year, they didn't win the league in Germany, but right now feel like a better team than the one that showed up in the final, which was kind of injury ravaged, had a little bit less depth. And in that case, it was Lasse Andersen who had a very poor game in that final, and Berlin just had no one else. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like Lichtlein, Grundel, Langhoff are just that little bit better this year, or like are ready to kind of step in. So it does feel for like a one game match. It feels like for Victor Berlin are a better team than last year.
Yeah, and we remember 2 years ago as well, Aalborg came to this stage, to the semi-final against Magdeburg, and they had done exactly what you said that Berlin need to do. They had come up with a plan, particularly defensively, to stop Magdeburg, and they executed it beautifully. Like Henrik Mulgaard had a reeling back the years kind of game in defence where he absolutely stopped them, and that laid the foundation for them to qualify for that final. And so you can imagine there's always a way to stop Magdeburg, and so many teams have come so close to doing it, like for a full match. And that is where I'm not gonna completely kind of see Magdeburg as comfortable favourites or clear favourites, because I've seen them struggle so many times this season. I've been on duty to cover them live so many times, particularly in the Bundesliga, where they have squeaked through and had nightmare games and like completely forgotten how to take penalties. And one thing that's also worth bearing in mind is that not very long ago, these two teams were set to face each other in a final in Cologne, in the Lanxess Arena, in the German Cup Final 4. But Magdeburg didn't play their part, and they lost in the semi-final to Bergische HC, and then Berlin went and won that final in the end quite comfortably, which maybe actually kind of worked out well for Magdeburg, because it didn't give Berlin a chance to get that win in Cologne over Magdeburg. So maybe although it was a disaster for them that weekend and they were able to put it behind them, it kind of saved them a little bit, because I think if it was that weekend, Berlin, the form they were in, if Magdeburg were the ones to get through that shootout, it wouldn't have been enough for them to win that final. I think Berlin were just too good. Lasse Andersen was just too good that weekend, which kind of brings me to the question of like the individual performers, because there's an awful lot riding on the Berlin side of things on those individual performances. If it's not Andersen or somehow not Gietzel, then someone else really needs to step up. And they also have Dejan Milosavljev in his final games for the club.
Yeah,
that is a massive part of this.
That is a massive one. Did you see his, after the last game in the Bundesliga, just Milosavljev on the court with his two children and his wife, as the whole arena chanted his name, just in tears, in just like, I've seen that moment for many players in many sports, and it really truly is. Usually it's more of a retirement moment, but this just truly special, and you know, it's enough to fire up Milosavljev to deliver something at a stage like this. I keep forgetting. The big news has been Lasse Andersen is leaving, but I think Milosavljev is huge.
There's a lot of that going on in this game though as well, or between these two teams, because also you have half of the Magdeburg team, which has maybe not been as widely, I don't know if it's been as widely covered, but just how many players are leaving. Maybe because it's not the top court players that are departing, but you know, Christian O'Sullivan is leaving at the end of this season. We also have Sergio Hernandez, who's moving on to Barca next season. That's just a couple of those. So that both teams with big goalkeepers who are departing. Manuel Zender as well as another one. Who knows if he will come on? But I mean, there's a lot of that going on, which is maybe something more to look at after it happens. We don't know how much of an impact that will have, but that goalkeeper battle between Hernandez and Milosavljev will be massive. Hernandez at times this season has shown himself to be one of the very best goalkeepers in the world. Milosavljev every now and then has shown that he can be at his very best, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a big game there.
I think you're being unfair to Milosavljev here. I think he has this latter stage of the season, just as Berlin have kind of gone on fire, won the cup, dominated, got themselves that second place in the league, fired through all steps. It was Milosavljev was incredibly consistent, and especially in the cup, he was the player that completely stepped up and won every game for them. He has just been incredibly consistent. And on the other side, ever since pretty much the European Championship, Hernandez had a poor one, and his form hasn't reached those great heights that he had for the first half of the season. So you kind of,
their form has maybe turned the tables a little bit, but not as drastically as where they were at the start of the season, I would say. But it's not about that, is it? It's about where they are on Saturday afternoon.
Where they are right now. And I think in this case, we've seen a lot more Matej Mandic in the latter half of the season than Sergei Hernandez, and he has and maybe it's because Magdeburg have been coasting, but he really, in the last 4 games, he honestly in his last 7 games, which include the quarterfinals, he has only made more than 10 saves twice. So that's not a hugely consistent kind of superstar that we saw at the start of the season. Yeah, you can extend that 10 games, just 2 games over 10 saves in the last 10 games for Sergei Hernandez, which shows a lack of form. Obviously, he can step in and have a good game, but if my money was on between the two of them, who will step up, I think I'm pretty confident in Milosavljev. I actually, you've got the Alex Kulash guarantee that Milosavljev is going to have a good game, at least in the semi-final.
Do you think it's going to come down to that then? Or what is the defining factors you think? How's this semi-final going to be decided?
To me, it's going to come down to how many goals above 10 that Gitzel scores and how many goals above 3 that Christiansen scores.
Not how many penalties Christiansen earns. No.
Not how many penalties Christiansen earns, because Gitzel's going to earn more on the other side. Because, last year, Christiansen had a phenomenal Final Four. He was the MVP. In the final, he got 8 goals. And it was that whole backcourt of Klar, Christiansen, and Magnussen that showed up in the final. And when all of them are firing, Magdeburg are hard to beat. And on the other side, we've seen that Gitzel just has that extra gear now. It's like he has a 7th gear. We're over 5th gear. We're over 6th gear. This is 7th gear. This is unseen things that he really, if he does get into that form and starts firing away and gets 12, 13 goals, I don't think Magdeburg are going to win this game.
We'll save the actual prediction for the end, I reckon. But before we move on to the other semi-final, it feels like a good time to bring in our chat with Juri Knorr, who we spoke to just before he departed to Cologne. Juri playing in his first Final Four, but it's not his first Final Four on attendance. He's been there many times as a spectator over the year with his dad, with his family. He speaks about that, his favourite moments over the years, his first season in the Champions League with Aalborg after his big move last summer, and what he thinks will make the difference this weekend as they take on Barca and then 2 very familiar foes on Sunday. It's lovely to speak to you here on Final Four week, and I think it's not too crazy for me to say that it's weekends like this and events like this are exactly the reason why you joined a club like Aalborg.
Yeah, for sure. And that was one of our and also my main goals before the season, was to make it to Cologne. It's, the biggest stage in club handball, I would say, and one of the biggest in general. And yeah, it was always like my dream, make it there, but also big dream for the club to maybe finally win the title here. So we are all really excited and looking forward.
I know you've been there a number of times. You've played there for Germany, of course, and I've read that you traveled there a number of times, watching in the stands as well as a younger man. How do you, as a handball player growing up and in the Final Four era, basically fits perfectly with your teenage years and your professional career? What are the kind of things that come to your mind when you think about heading to Cologne for a Final Four?
Exactly. It was actually, these were almost always the weekends I was looking forward the most, because we've been there, I think, at least 5 times with my family and also friends, and it was always like there was also always great weather down there in Cologne. It was always just a great atmosphere, great weekend, and of course all my idols played there back then. And like as you said, it was exactly that era where I grew up, and Cologne was getting bigger and bigger somehow, and it was just this electric atmosphere around the Lanxess Arena, just huge. And now to be part of, sometimes you need a quiet moment to really realize what it means, and that it's really something I always dreamed of as a child. And I think it's the same for many other players. And sometimes in all the stressful, and like a season is long and you work so hard and you have so many matches, and sometimes you forget why you actually do it and what it means. Sometimes you need to remind yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, have you had a chance to even sit and think about it? Because since qualifying, of course, it's been a while now since the quarterfinals, but the season doesn't stop. You've had national team action. You've had to fight for the Danish league as well and go through the playoffs there. Are you really starting to kind of feel that, or allow yourself to feel that Final Four build up? And how is it like in the club?
As you said, there's so many also important matches. You cannot just take a break. It's like the season does not allow that. But maybe this week, and especially now when we're traveling there will be some moments where I think it's really something special and really a really big thing. And I will definitely try to, not too much, because still we are there to play it and hopefully win it. And now we are professional handball players, and it's also somehow a job. So it's not anymore just this romantic thing. I just try to enjoy it and do the best what I can, and we try the best as we can as a team.
Is that something that has been discussed a little bit within the team since you've been able to, focus on Cologne and everything that goes around it? I mean, you're no stranger to big final weekends. You've been there with Germany in the past, so you know how to navigate these things. But Cologne in the Final Four brings a certain kind of maybe a schedule as well that you're not used to unless you've been there before. And you've got some teammates who've been in the past, many times. Is that something you chat about?
Yeah, for sure. It helps to have some of the guys here who experienced that, who played there alone. And we didn't talk that much about it. I mean, like, we have so many experienced players, and like actually everyone in our team knows more or less what it's about and what it needs to really be successful there. And I just think you need to be prepared for it. It will be a really hard fight, especially now in the semifinal, starting against Barcelona. You just bring your best. You need to be at the top level and maybe even better. And but then, like as we mentioned, I've been there many times as a spectator, and this Final Four, it has its own rules. Anything can happen somehow, and like in the past years, especially when I was there, it was almost always the underdog winning there. So it's always a new story being written there. So just let's see.
Is there one in particular you recall? I don't know which years you were there, but I'm guessing ones you're talking about, maybe the Kielce or
Yeah,
Flensburg, Hamburg years.
yeah, it was Kielce was actually, yeah, I would say this one was,
Yeah,
yeah, the most impressive. I would say, like, my father asked me to actually leave after half-term breaks.
No way, really?
And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? And this one, but also Montpellier, Vada the next years. Like, it was almost always the underdog. So, like, we were talking about experience, of course it helps and it's important, but it's I don't know. Like, all these teams, maybe they weren't the most experienced or, yeah, most decorated teams, but they won it in the end, and it's about passion, I think, and who wants it more.
Really well said. And to get to this stage, clearly the teams are good enough to have navigated this tournament, and it really seems this season that anyone, even teams that didn't even make the quarterfinal, could have
Yeah.
been battling for those spots. How do you think the season has been overall with this Aalborg team? Because it's been quite a journey as well. It's at the end of the season, you're in a perfect position now. Danish league winners looking to go to the final four and win it, but it may be from the outside at least didn't always look so smooth.
I don't know. I'm actually quite happy with our season and what we achieved now. Of course, it's easy to say it now at almost the end of the season, and, like, you can say we achieved our main goals to win the Danish titles, domestic titles there, and now making it to Cologne. But of course, it's always hard. It's always long. Also for me, it was the first time playing in the Champions League, and also have this big ambition in your own league to really win the titles there. That was new for me, and of course, it's always a bit up and down. And maybe we didn't just went through it like other teams like Magdeburg, for example, did, or I don't know, Barcelona. So yeah, but now we're here. And of course, it was also, for example, a hard fight against Sporting, and maybe they also deserved it, and we came out lucky in the end. But I think we deserve it as well. And now we are there, and yeah, now we're just looking forward to it, and hopefully we find a really good ending to our season. But yeah, I think we are happy with it, and yeah, and it's always a progress, and in the end, you need to be there where we are now, and now we have an opportunity.
Is there anything in particular that you mentioned the progress there? Is there something that has maybe surprised you in a positive way about how this season has progressed for you? It's a very new situation, as you said, fighting for the titles with your club, balancing the Champions League as well, and with a different league, a whole new place, and different kind of makeup of the squad as well when it comes to your teammates. How have you found that?
Yeah, for sure. I had to adapt to many things. It's always like this when you move abroad. Like, starting with our playing style, but then also, being in a locker room where actually everyone is Scandinavian, and I was the only one not. So in the end, I was a bit surprised because quarterfinals, that not having 2 games a week, that it was almost like a weird feeling, because actually before this season it was new for me to have almost always two matches, but then when we didn't have it anymore, I was like, so much training now, and it's more fun to play. So now we had to train so much, and maybe this.
Well, the body survived okay. I guess you get into the rhythm, right, of it every 3 days or 4 days of playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but we're healthy now, more or less, as a team, and that's the good thing.
Heading into the semi-final, then, you mentioned it's going to be quite a battle. You've got on the other side of the draw the 2 German teams. I guess you're not thinking about them too much, but a Barca team that are, speaking of experience, they know this place inside out. Already a bit of a history with Aalborg as a club, and a bit of personal history for you as well, as Barca was part of your journey as a young player. What do you think of the challenge that they bring? I don't know if you've had too much time to look into them in detail at this point.
Yeah, of course, we are already preparing for this match. And I mean, Barcelona, you can say it's the biggest club in the history of handball. I think they have the most Champions League or European Cup titles. So yeah, it's just huge. Of course, they were also really successful in the recent years, and it's a really big challenge. But nevertheless, I was actually like, I mean, if you had to choose one of these other three teams, like they are all like they have the main goal to win it, and they're so good teams. So I was just happy to play against Barcelona. It's the first time I play against them. I have a little bit of history with the club, so I'm just looking forward to it. And it's also this is a special moment for me. Now playing against Barcelona at this stage there, and this is it, I would say.
Were there many guys in the Barca B team or youth team that you played with growing up that are in the team now?
In the past, there was Danny Fernandez. He was actually our third wing. You could say he was a bit younger.
Wow, what a glow up!
Yeah. But at the end of the season, he played some matches with the B team with us. So yeah, he developed amazing. But also Baufet, he was in the younger teams. I didn't have that much. Like he was just younger than me, but he was coming there. But then in the B team, I hope I don't forget someone now, but I don't think so, of course. And like some of the guys who already played there in the first team and trained sometimes with them and sometimes got some matches with them. So it's just like a special moment for me.
As you said, waiting on the other side is maybe not the worst thing to have the two German teams beat the crap out of each other in a semi-final. If let's see what happens then on Sunday if you get through. You'll probably have a bit of a Juri Knorr fan club as well, I guess, in Cologne. I always see a lot of Reineke Leuven jerseys. Probably they'll have a soft part in their heart for you, the German fans, at least on Saturday.
Maybe, I hope so. Of course, like there will be many family members, many friends who asked for tickets and will be there. And yeah, and if like maybe if there are some German fans who cheer for us in our match, it might help. But let's see how it goes.
When you consider this Aalborg team, and I guess at a certain point you have to focus on what you guys do well as well in such a short weekend, 2 matches in a short amount of time. What do you think really needs to go perfect from an Aalborg point of view, and what you do well to come away with the trophy this weekend?
I mean, I think it's the basics. We need to be good in defense. We need the goalkeeper performance you just need it in these games, and especially also knowing when they have Emil Nielsen, of course. So this is these are the basics, and of course we shouldn't allow Barcelona to get too many counter attacks, get easy chances. Like if we lose the ball too easily in attack, if we make too many turnovers, that could be this shouldn't happen. But we just need a really good game to be at our best, and then I think we have a good opportunity. But of course, it will be hard, and I don't think we are the favorites.
As you said, that's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to the Final Four, right? Not the outsiders, maybe not the favorites, but it's such a fine margin between all 4 teams. Well, Juri, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure to chat. And I'll be seeing you in Cologne. Have a safe journey and stay fit.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Juri Knorr, a man who over the years has experienced firsthand just basically the golden years of the outsider winning the title. The Hamburgs, the Flensburgs, the Kielces, Montpellier, Vardar. He was there through it all as a fan, which he spoke about. Is there, an opportunity for... There's definitely an opportunity, that's for sure. But how much of an opportunity is there for an outsider to win the title this year? And I feel a little bit unfair calling Aalborg an outsider, but maybe purely on, percentage probability of winning this title, they are, but it's a very strong outsider in Aalborg at this point.
Yeah, like Barcelona are pretty heavy favorites going into this. They've, they always beat Aalborg. that's the way this tie works. Aalborg have only one win against them out of the last 10 games.
It was the most recent game, though.
It was the most recent one. So, maybe that's a monkey off their back that they've actually gone and done and beat Barca. This happened in February of last year. Maybe it's a monkey off their back that they've gone and beaten Barca. I still find Barcelona weird because I still don't believe that they have a squad that is just so much better than any of the teams, but they seem to be playing like they have a squad better than any team. So on paper, I almost would lean towards Aalborg, but at the end of the day, it's Barca tend to get the big wins over the last couple of years. I don't know what's your view on it.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the feeling like they are there, and that's maybe kind of the historical side of things as well, because regardless of necessarily who's in the squad, there is that like base level of quality, and there is also like at the top level, and the top players are incredible. I agree, they haven't been the strongest team that they have. They don't have as strong a squad as they had in recent years, but they have, when it comes to pure kind of statistics, looked very strong this season. And I was having a look through Julian Rux's stat article on Eurohandball.com, which is always a joy to look at. And when it comes to defensive efficiency, Barca have actually been the best club this whole season, and by quite a way as well. They are a bit of an outlier in terms of how strong they have been defensively, with just 25.2 goals conceded per 50 possessions. So that's almost 1 in every 2 that they are not conceding a goal. And that helps, of course, when you have Emil Nielsen, and to a slightly lesser extent in terms of name, but slightly higher extent in terms of percentage, Victor Gisli-Helgrimsson on goal. 2 of them seem to have worked really well together. And yeah, I don't know if it's just because they were so used to having this Barca team as a massive collection of superstars that we think a little bit less of them this season. But when it comes to the majority of the court, still you see the players there and you can't find too much wrong with them. The goalkeeper department, as we said, with Victor Gisli and Nielsen in there. The wings are fantastic. The line players are, at least on paper, if not every single day, fantastic when it comes to Fabregas and Luis Frade in there. The backcourt, brilliant. The kind of question mark in this season and the last couple of seasons has been if the playmaker position has been is strong enough for them. And I think that has become less and less of a worry for them as the season has gone on, because they've found solutions in there. I think for me, the big question is as long as Dikemem is staying fit and he is there, kind of, you mentioned in the first semi-final, the goals above 10 for Gietzel or goals above 3 for Chris Janssen. There's a similar, I think, formula here for Barca, which is, let's say, goals above 8 for Dikemem.
I think Dikemem hasn't been I think he hasn't scored 8 many times this season, but he can do it. And I really do think Domen Makuc is actually the real key to them in that playmaker position, which for years he didn't live up to his hype. And just as he's finally become the player that Barca always believed he would be, he's moving to the Bundesliga with Kiel. But I think in terms of defense, you make some really good points. Like Ludovic Fabregas coming back to Barca has had a huge impact, and you put him beside Karlsborg and Engesson, and you really have like a formidable centre block with, of course, the dynamic wing defense that the likes of, you have Jans, Gomes and Barafet all playing, like covering 2 spots at the same time. So defensively, yes, that is their their strength, the way that they kind of stay in front of everyone, and you just have to see on the other side what Aalborg and their really dynamic backcourt that just feels kind of like unstoppable at the moment. How they play against this Barca defense, you know, with Arnoldsson in full flow, Hoxer not injured for once, slicing through at right back, and then you have Juri Knorr to fill that in. But in behind him, if they need to mix things up, they have Sander Sagosen. So that backcourt has been so dynamic for Aalborg. The combination of Arnoldsson and Hoxer has seen them sail through the Danish league. Those two have continuously come up with big games. Like they haven't taken a game off. And then it's just one other player that usually steps up, and Knorr has been filling in very nicely as well. So that backcourt it is wonderful for Aalborg, and I'm really excited to watch how they play together.
Also, element of this, another goalkeeper battle, which is a fun one in terms of the storylines. The old master, Niklas Landin, up against the current reigning king of Danish goalkeeping, Emil Nielsen. And Landin has stepped up his game in the last few months.
Yeah, he was the reason why Aalborg were able to seal the Danish final against Skanderborg Aarhus. They got 2 big wins, and I think he got something like 15 saves in each game, making some massive ones in that second game. And I think that's also really important. We've seen years before where Danish teams on the women's side, on the Women's Champions League side, we've seen the Danish handball playoffs finals kind of extend a little bit and push up against the Final Four, or almost around it on the women's side. But the fact that Aalborg were able to close out both the semi-final and the final in 2-0 victories, and not going to that third leg, it means that they've had 9 days break since that final, enough to celebrate, enough to relax, and enough to get back into gear. So I think they'll be in really good form. While Barca,
they've had 2 months.
They did have a Copa del Rey where they beat Bidassoa Irun by 20 goals in the final. So
yeah, well, that's it's with Barca, it's always funny. It's one of those things that depending on how it goes for them that weekend, the narrative it fits that. You know, if it goes beautifully, then it's, well, you know, they had all this time to prepare. If it goes terribly, then it's like, oh, they were undercooked. But I think from what we've heard over the years from the Barca players and coaches, it's something they're so used to at this point, so they know how to ramp up for it. You know, this is also something that Juri Knorr mentioned, that, you know, of course, he has that personal connection to Barca, but they were the team he wanted to play in the semi-final. He's never played against them before, but also I think both teams would have been happy to avoid the German teams in the semi-final, which is a weird way to look at it, because they're not necessarily worse than the German teams, but just there's something about the aura of them, and better to let them, you know, beat each other up in the first day and see whoever comes through to the final on Sunday. But who do you think will be going through to the finals on Sunday now, Alex?
I think Füchse Berlin Aalborg is an all-time final. Like, to sit down and watch that game and see those two teams just shred through each other, like hit each other really hard. I think that's the final I want to see. So that's what my prediction is going to be.
Okay, I thought you were going to say that's what you wanted to see, but it wasn't going to happen. I mean, I don't not see that happening. I do kind of see Aalborg and Berlin being slightly ahead of the other two at the moment, but I don't want to agree with you in in entirety. I'm going to say in that case, it's going to be Magdeburg against Aalborg in this year's final with, and I think if it gets to that, then Aalborg to win it all. I think if Berlin get to a final, they will win it. I think if Magdeburg get to the final this year, they'll lose it. Who's going to win it for you?
Yeah, I feel like Füchse Berlin will beat Aalborg, but they won't beat Barca if that happens.
Yeah, it's all about the clash of styles.
I'm going to go Aalborg.
Oh,
I think they deserve it. I think they deserve it.
All in on Aalborg.
I just want... I just... Let's keep Matthias Giesel wanting more. He can't win absolutely everything already. He's give him a couple more years.
He'll become like Tadej Pogačar in the cycling. If he wins it all too early, he'll get bored. And so we need to keep him chasing the titles for a while.
Exactly. Although you did, you gave me a little task.
I did
in the last podcast.
Yes.
I don't
is that
remember.
How you're gonna?
Do you remember?
Is that how you're gonna round out this like a dramatic reading to conclude the pod?
Yeah, and I completely forgot about this, but there was an incredible moment in Matthias Giesel's Champions League, first ever Champions League Final Four, and it happened in the semi-final. Do you remember what happened?
The sliding tackle, the red card. Yeah, I sure do. It was right in front of my eyes. I couldn't believe it.
A debut that ended a little earlier than planned. I stood there last year for the first time. In quite a few ways, it did not become the debut I dreamed of. Not much time had passed in the semi-final before I slipped on the floor and ended up doing something that looked mostly like a sliding tackle on Nantes' right wing. It ended with a red card, and then I was just sitting there. I learned something that afternoon that I had not expected. We were winning. The crowd was loud. And I was sitting in a plastic chair at the side of the court, in my kit, doing nothing. You tell yourself to stay in it. You shout. You try to read the game the way you would from the court. But the noise lands differently when you cannot use it. It just sits on top of you. I remember watching a fast break and feeling my body react. The first step you take before even thinking about it. Except I did not take it. I just watched. That is the part that is hard to explain. Not the red card. Not the embarrassment. Just sitting there while my whole body still wanted to play. And that is what Matthias Giesel is going to do in this first semi-final. He wants to play. He wants to feel that court. And he's going to get that win.
I take it all back. Berlin are going to win it all. He's a man on a mission. Inspirational words from Matthias Giesel, and a beautiful way to wrap it up. I reckon we're going to do a post show chat on Saturday as well. Little morning club, the semi-final reactions.
Yeah, I think so. I think that could
we'll do that for Patreon only.
Yeah, that could be there. Yes. So listen in and enjoy the Final Four. Chris, enjoy your time in Cologne. How's the weather? Is it a heat wave or is it?
I think it's going to be very mild for Cologne, which means like 21 degrees or something, which is perfect for me. That's good. Better than like the 35 in recent years.
Yeah. Some of those heat waves are tough. So
comfortable in Cologne.
Another reason why Aalborg are going to win.
Well, we'll find out, and we'll be there to cover it for you as it happens over the weekend. So enjoy the Final Four, Alex. Enjoy the Final Four, everyone at home, and we'll talk to you again soon. Goodbye.